Hello everyone. Good afternoon to all of you.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. What we discussed last class, I think theory was done.
Okay, 7 point.
Okay. So today our syllabus will be completed. उसके बाद क्या करोगे?
Division.
Yeah. What we discussed in theory part, quickly let's revise it and we'll discuss the exercise. Yes?
I'm all about Hamilton.
Hamiltonian. So tell me, Hamiltonian cycle, definition of Hamiltonian graph, example, non-example, yeah, tell
मैम
me,
इस पे subgraph
yeah.
मैम इन spanning cycle is
Spanning
known as
cycle will be your
Hamiltonian cycle.
Hamiltonian cycle. That means that contains all the vertices. A cycle that visits all the vertices or that contains all the vertices of the graph, that is your Hamiltonian cycle, and the corresponding graph in which this cycle exists is known as
Hamiltonian.
Hamiltonian graph. Example,
Kn.
Kn. Which cycle is present in this one?
Ma'am, if n is odd, it is possible.
Sure.
Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. For all. For all.
For cycle n has to be at least 3. That's why Kn. Which cycle is present?
Cn.
Cn is present, right? Actually, for odd, it was for Eulerian, right?
Yes,
Now
ma'am. Yes.
we have even degree concept, right? Here, all Kn are, yes, Cn, yes, itself is a Hamiltonian cycle then, and hence Hamiltonian graph. What about Pn?
No ma'am, no cycle.
But it is your Hamiltonian path, right?
Yes ma'am.
A path that is the spanning path that contains all the vertices. What else? Wn? Yeah, V. Start with C3, join with K1, that is your W4. Is this Hamiltonian? Can you find C4 over here? Order is 4?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes ma'am.
Yes, exists, right? This one, this one, this one, this one, right? C4 exists. What about W5? Can you find C5?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes ma'am.
right? Similarly, here you can find C6, right? So what you do, starting with this one, right? And here also start with this, visit all the vertices and come back to this vertex. And they also start with the inside one, visit all the vertices, come back to this one. So these are the Hamiltonian cycle. So this is also Hamiltonian graph. What else? ARS.
For R equal S.
Yeah.
Ma'am, KRS when R is equal to S.
R is equal to S. For all R and S, it has to be at least 2, no? Because K11 is non-Hamiltonian. K11 is non-Hamiltonian. K12 is non-Hamiltonian. That means K13 and so on, all the star part are non-Hamiltonian. So both have to be, the minimum value have to be at least 2. So both have to be at least 2 RS. And which cycle is present? That means KRR na? Or KSS, whatever. Which cycle is present in this one?
C2.
C2R. That becomes its Hamiltonian cycle, and hence this graph becomes the Hamiltonian graph. What about Peterson graph?
Not Hamiltonian.
Not Hamiltonian, not Eulerian. What about this one? Eulerian? Is it Eulerian?
Ma'am, if R and S will be even, then it can.
R and S have to be even. Only then it is Eulerian. So K22, K24, K33, K34, K45 or anything like that. 5-7. Yeah. Tell me Eulerian and Hamiltonian. Starting with this.
Ma'am, both Eulerian and Hamiltonian.
Both Eulerian and Hamiltonian. What about this one?
Ma'am, Eulerian but not Hamiltonian.
Eulerian but non-Hamiltonian. Eulerian because even, right? There are how many vertices with degree 4? With degree 4, how many vertices?
2 vertex.
2.
4 or 2?
2.
2, ma'am.
There are 2 number of vertices with degree 4, right? ये वाले दो vertex यही तो adjacent होंगे 4 से. That's why. And there are 4 number of vertices with degree 2, right? All are even. Yeah. What about this one?
Not Eulerian but Hamiltonian.
Not Eulerian but Hamiltonian. What about this one?
None of this.
Not Eulerian because there are odd vertices. 4 odd vertices. And non-Hamiltonian, not equal, right? And here also you have या तो कुछ भी even नहीं है, right? And not equal, that's why this one. Okay? N odd, then Eulerian, right? Eulerian for N odd. And for all, it is Hamiltonian. Okay? So here we don't have any known example in Kn where you have non-Hamiltonian, right? Non example नहीं है इसका Hamiltonian का, right? But Eulerian का मिल जाएगा K4, K6. Okay? Cn both. Wn, is it Eulerian? Wn. It is Hamiltonian. Is it Eulerian?
No, ma'am.
No. Cn both. Pn nothing. Okay. Yeah, we discussed 2 results. 2 or 3 results yesterday. Tell me. Yes. If graph G is Hamiltonian, it is given as Hamiltonian, then what can we say? Number of component of G minus S, where S is non-empty set of vertices, will be less than or equal to S cardinality, right? And this is happening for all S S should be non-empty, not equal to 5. And this is the subset of vertex. Clear? This is your result number 1. Result number 2. Yeah? As is a simple graph with order at least 3. As is a simple graph with minimum degree
n by 2.
at least n by 2, then G is Hamiltonian. Okay? G is Hamiltonian. Yeah. Else, another one, G is simple graph, and there exist two non-adjacent vertices. There exist two non-adjacent vertices. U and V is not present as S, right? Then G is Hamiltonian. If and only if, now this implies G plus UV is Hamiltonian, right? G में present नहीं थी S, right? Yes. What about the reverse condition? Reverse condition will be true, that G plus UV. Yeah. What about this one? How we prove this one? Just tell me. G is Hamiltonian means there will exist Hamiltonian cycle, right? And G plus UV, we are just adding the edges, not adding any vertices, right? The vertex remains same. Same cycle will work for G plus UV or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, so hence it is Hamiltonian. Now, this is Hamiltonian. Then you want to prove this is Hamiltonian. This will prove with the help of degree of U plus degree of V is at least N, right? For reverse case, we need this extra condition. Okay? So that is your 7.2. Any doubt? Yes? No doubt? Okay. Yeah. For which value of R, KRS is Hamiltonian? Yeah, before that, what about assignment? Submit कर दिया? Assignment. Have you got any assignment number 3 and 4?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yes, not I mean. We have just discussed this one, na? KRR is Hamiltonian. For which value of R?
R is to be at least 2.
R has to be at least 2. When R is 1, it is not. Means it does not contain any cycle. Cycle ही नहीं है तो कहाँ से Hamiltonian cycle की बात करेंगे, right? Yeah. And why is it so? Why KRR R is equal to S for this one? That means both have to be, why these are equal. Whenever cycle is there, that visits all the vertices, means alternatively it is visiting the both quantite set, and this can happen only if both are same, right? Same number of vertices को visit कर रही है, right? It has no cycle K11. Yeah. Next. Now we know that KRR for R greater than, strictly greater than 1, or N strictly greater than 1, we have this as Hamiltonian graph, right? Which cycle exists?
K2N.
This
Sorry,
C
C2N.
C2N.
right? Now we want to count how many C2N exist in this one, right? Prove that KNN, complete bipartite graph with order n, 2n, has n minus 1 factorial into n factorial divided by 2 number of Hamiltonian cycle. अब एक एग्जिस्ट करते ही तो हैमिल्टनियन ग्राफ हो गया. How many of these Hamiltonian cycle exist? Yes, you can start with K22. Just verify it. We are coming to this one. For K22, it has to be according to this result 2 minus 1 factorial into 2 factorial divided by 2. There have to exist only one cycle, right? Clear? So here we are having this one, this one, this one, this one. Or the other way around is we can go to this one as well, right? One is this way. We can start with this one, go to this one, then come back to this one. Another is we can just start this, go to this vertex, then come to this vertex, and then come back to this vertex, right? Both are same. Both are providing the same cycle, na? Right? So for this one, we have just one cycle, and here it is done. 2 minus 1 factorial, 2 factorial divided by 2. That is coming as 1. What about K33? How many cycle? Should be there. 2 factorial into 3 factorial divided by 2. Just count for K33, then I'll discuss in general. So this one cycle is this one, right? Either we can go towards this one first, or we can go towards this one first. We will be getting the same, right? Another cycle, you can visit to this first, right? This vertex, then this vertex, this vertex, this vertex, then to this one, then come back to this one. This is again C6, right? Another one, you can come to this one, that will be again the same thing. Okay, so you can come to this one, this one, this one. Oh no, not this one. We have counted this. This to this, 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 this to this. So how many? 3 cycles we have done. What else? What else? You can start with this vertex, right? So are we getting only 3 or 6? So this will be 3 minus 1 factorial into 3 factorial divided by 2. So 6 we need. So 3 we got. What about the another one? So let me label it A, B, C, D, E, F. 3 more we want. So how many ways? 3 more we want, na? Yes. Tell me. So we have started with this. So we can take some other, starting from this one to this one. That will be C4 for this one. This, then this, this one, this one, this one. Am I tracing the same path or different? Different, na? Yes, different, because green one was following the same path and we have taken the different from here, right? And this one. For one, right? Like this, you can have two more. Okay? Clear? Are you getting it or not? So there will be 6 different cycles. And how many ways we can do it? If this is KNN, then n vertices will be there, right? And so on here. N vertices will be present over here. Yes, fix some vertex over here. A, we have fixed it. Okay, so corresponding to this one, how many ways we can visit this vertex, these n number of vertices? How many ways are present to select n number of vertices? How many ways we can choose these n number of vertices?
N ways.
N ways or n factorial ways? How many ways we can visit these n number of vertices from this vertex? Yeah? If you fix one here, one vertex over here, corresponding to this one, there are n factorial ways. And remaining n minus 1 factorial ways for these n minus 1 vertices. Right? So we want to visit all of these vertices and these vertices. So it will be n factorial into n minus 1 factorial. Then why this 2 comes into picture? Because I told you na, whether you are forming this cycle from this way or this way. You are repeating the cycle, na? Right? So this 2, this why it is coming into picture, right? Means every cycle according to this one, n minus 1 factorial into n factorial, if we are counting like this, every cycle counted twice. Because यहाँ से भी जा सकते हैं in undirected graph. If it would be directed, then it would be like this, right? So as this is undirected, so we can take this cycle via this edge or via this edge. Both are same. That's why it will be divided by this. Okay? Okay. Or you can just take like that. This vertex has how many ways? N ways, right? Then next vertex has, if one is fixed, then n minus 1 ways, then n minus 2 ways, and so on, right? Then we have to visit out of these also, right? So the complete solution is written over here. Cycle will be C2n in all the cases, and you can consider, you can fix one vertex, and it is visiting the n vertices of the other partite sets in n factorial ways, this C2n. Okay, that starts with A. And for the same partite set, the remaining n minus 1 vertices in n minus 1 factorial ways. So total ways will be, we have to visit both the vertices, these were this one. That's why multiplication. And as I told you, this is counting each cycle twice, because either you can go in forward direction or in this direction, okay? From either direction, this way or this way. Clear? अगर एक A fix है यहाँ से, तो you can either go like this or go like this. So that's why it will be total n factorial into n minus 1 factorial divided by 2. Okay? Is that clear? Next. Prove that G has G has a Hamiltonian path implies then you have G has the number of component of G minus S. That means number of component of G minus S is at most this one, less than or equal. Oh, this is written already. Then we need to prove this one, right? Only if P, only if Q. Which type of statement? P implies Q, na? So given is G has Hamiltonian path, we need to prove this one. That is, for all S, the subset of vertex set, any set subset of vertex set, the number of component of G minus S is less or equal to S cardinal T plus 1. We have done similar kind of thing in case of Hamiltonian cycle. If G has Hamiltonian path, cycle, then what was this one? Number of component of G minus S was less than or equal to this one, right? For all non-empty set S. Clear? And whenever path, it will be added to 1. Understood? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let's try to explain. What do we do? See, P is G is having any Hamiltonian path. So suppose P is that Hamiltonian path. This is not this P statement. This is path. Okay, P is your Hamiltonian path in G. Total statement is this one. Now you can consider any general vertex set, that is the subset of VG, and we need to show that this thing. Now, if P is the Hamiltonian path, then if we delete one vertex from here, how many components it will be having?
What, ma'am?
If we delete one vertex at a time, one vertex at a time from this one, either I can delete this one or I can delete any of these in between. So if we delete this one, number of component of P minus that vertex will be
2 or 1.
that's same, one only. And if I delete this vertex, number of component will be increased by 1.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So at most it is increased by 1, right? So now successively you can delete any number of vertices, right? This one, or any these two, right? Successively. If you are successively deleting the vertices, number of component of P minus S is any set of vertices, then number of component of P minus S will be at most the number of vertices in this one plus 1. Why is it so? पहले तो एक ही vertex कर रहे थे, right? So it will be at most this one. Now this P minus S. P minus S is subgraph of spanning subgraph, I should say, of G minus S, right? P था वो सबग्राफ था इस G का, हैमिल्टनियन ग्राफ हैमिल्टनियन पाथ है, इसी में प्रेजेंट रहेगा, राइट। सो p माइनस एस, जो मैं s से वर्टेक्स डिलीट कर रही हूँ, वो g से भी वर्टेक्स अगर डिलीट करूँ तो दिस विल बी द स्पैनिंग सबग्राफ। पहले भी तो स्पैनिंग था, राइट?
Yes, ma'am.
अभी भी स्पैनिंग रहेगा बिकॉज नंबर ऑफ वर्टिसेस आर सेम, राइट। नाउ p अगर सेम है g है तो कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, वी आर डन, राइट। इट इज p is isomorphic to g, means same है, तो we are done, right? Number of component of p minus s is less than equal to s cardinal t plus 1. But g में अगर p isomorphic नहीं है g के, if p is not equal to g, or you can just say not isomorphic to g, then what can happen? Only edges ज्यादा हो सकती है g में, right? Because number of vertices तो same है, right? Spanning है यहाँ पे भी और यहाँ पे भी spanning है, right? So in this one, this is the spanning subgraph of this one, right? So we can form g minus s by adding some edges to p minus s. Yes, we can form because number of
Yes.
vertices तो same है, edges different हो सकती है, right? Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So if we are adding the edges, the number of component increase होंगे या decrease होंगे? Either remaining same or it will decrease, right? Number of component of g minus s, suppose p minus s ये वाला था, right? ये था. So I can add this one, this as, then this as. So if I'm just adding this as, the number of component remaining same, right? Same भी हो सकते हैं, या फिर g minus s ये है, connected है, तो increase decrease भी हो सकते हैं, not increasing just the number of edges, but the number of components decreasing, join हो रहे हैं ना, right? So it can adding any edge to the components, it is increasing, what I'm just saying again and again, it is decreasing the component by at most one, right? Either same हो रहे हैं या फिर डिक्रीज हो रहे हैं, राइट? इधर सेम है या फिर डिक्रीज है, किससे? नंबर ऑफ कंपोनेंट ऑफ p minus s, एजेस ऐड कर रहे हैं, राइट? सो नंबर ऑफ कंपोनेंट विल बी लेस देन इक्वल टू, दिस इज आल्सो लेस देन इक्वल टू दिस वन, दैट्स व्हाई इट इज s cardinal t plus 1. Understood? Yes? Okay, let me show you formal proof. What I wanted to explain is this one, that S is any set of vertices. Now successively if we delete the vertices from the path, that will increase the number of component by at most one each time. We are deleting S from P और एक करके delete कर रहे हैं, right? एक करके delete कर रहे हैं, तो S cardinality plus 1, it will be at most increase, it will be increasing the number of component by at most one each time, right? First vertex delete किया, it may be equal to the same number of component, that is it may be connected if you are deleting the end vertices, और अगर middle से delete कर रहे हैं तो increase, right? First vertex, then second vertex delete किया, so same thing. So it excessively if we delete the vertices, then it is increasing the number of component of this path by at most one each time. And how many vertices we are removing? That much number of component plus one, right? By at most one. So S plus one, right? S coordinate number of vertices. Now this is your spanning subgraph of G minus S because P spanning path tha, right? So S deleted from here, S deleted from here. This will be also number of vertices will be remaining same over here, and this is also spanning subgraph. Now from P minus S we can get G minus S by adding edges. An addition of edges cannot increase the number of component. That's why number of component of G minus S have to be at most component of P minus S. या तो इंक्रीज होंगे सॉरी या तो डिक्रीज होंगे या फिर सेम रहेंगे राइट G माइनस एस की कंपोनेंट बिकॉज वी आर एडिंग द एजेस यहाँ कुछ कंपोनेंट था P माइनस एस का यहाँ कुछ कंपोनेंट था either we are adding edges over here only or we are joining these two component तो डिक्रीज हो रहे हैं टोटल नंबर ऑफ कंपोनेंट राइट
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
Or it is remaining the same. That's why number of component of G minus S is less than equal to number of component of P minus S. And P minus S के case में we have done this result. So just put this one. This is less than equal to S cardinal T plus 1. Right? So what we got from here? Number of component of G minus S is less than equal to first and third S cardinal T plus 1. And that's the result. As this was arbitrary, so it will work for all S. Okay? Yes? Any doubt in this one? This is your P implies Q statement, right? Now, if you want to show some graph does not have any Hamiltonian path, that is, there does not exist any spanning path. Path ही exist नहीं करता. Then what you will say? You will try to find some S negation of this one, na? You will show negation of this one that is greater than this one for some S. So for some S, component of G minus S will be strictly greater than this. Then G has no Hamiltonian path. Okay? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the last question for the day is this one. So let me. Determine whether, yeah, this graph is Hamiltonian or not. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Try to find some cycle. And which cycle should exist? There are 8 vertices over here and 8 vertices inside this one. I think 8 vertices. Yeah, 8 vertices. So you need to find C16. This graph is Hamiltonian. Just try to find C16 in this graph. Just try it. to find some Hamiltonian path. Sorry, Hamiltonian cycle. Yes, anyone?
Yes, ma'am. C16 exists.
Tell me. From where you started?
Then B from B.
B. Okay.
And B to J, J to P,
J
then
to P.
P,
Okay.
P to N, N to L, L to T,
D.
then E, F, G,
E. F. G.
H,
H.
A,
A.
then
I.
and I, then O.
Oh. Oh. Yeah. 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 So it is not.
Mm,
So this is not there. Yeah. I. Then O.
then M,
N.
K,
K.
P,
C. B. So it is visiting all the vertices. It contains all the vertices. This is your C16, right? And hence your graph is Hamiltonian. Okay.
ma'am, why we not able to apply the property that minimum degree should be 8?
Minimum degree should be at least n by 2, less than greater than equal to, yeah.
I mean, this property means this property should exist, and at least 3 vertices will be there. Then only the graph is
Then
Hamiltonian.
only the graph is that means there are some graph for which are Hamiltonian, but this property may not satisfy. Okay, that's why this is not if and only if. Okay, if that property satisfies, minimum degree is at least n by 2, then the graph have to be Hamiltonian. Okay, and order तो obviously at least 3 तो होना ही चाहिए, तभी तो C3 exist कर सकता है, right?
Yes, ma'am.
तो इसमें Hamiltonian होना ही चाहिए, but this I didn't tell you that this is also the sufficient condition, right? This is only necessary condition, right? It is not the sufficient one. That means there are some Hamiltonian graph for which it may not hold, right? That means Q implies P may not hold, right? For example, in this one only you can just see number of vertices are 16, na? So if you go by this result, then you will keep checking that minimum degree is what? Here it is 3 regular, na? Is it?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
This is 3 regular. So minimum degree according to this one, it have to be 8, na? Then the graph is Hamiltonian. If ये satisfy कर रहा है किसी graph में तो Hamiltonian it will be for sure. But अगर exist नहीं कर रहा, I mean ये satisfy नहीं भी कर रहा, तो भी Hamiltonian हो सकते हैं, right? That is only the necessary condition, not the sufficient one. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
That means in all these are derived from the definitions, no? So first you just go by definition, that is try to find C16 if you can. Okay. So C16 we have found it. That's why done. Right? Here also it is V1 one C16. Another C16, right? And here we complete the syllabus. Yeah. In next class, what do you want me to do? Tomorrow.
Revision of matching.
Revision of which all the assignments. Then we can start the revision, right? From next week onward.
Okay, ma'am.
And yeah, for all those जो अब तक नहीं सुन रहे थे कुछ भी, बस क्लास में अटेंडेंस के लिए आ रहे हैं, may be serious this time, okay? If you will, this time I will not be discussing all the proof part, okay? We'll take the statements, we'll do the questions based on that, okay?
मैम
Yeah.
रिविजन्स में क्वेश्चंस भी करवा दीजिए, मतलब एमसीक्यू रिलेटेड क्वेश्चंस चैप्टर 1 to 7 पूरा टोटल.
Yeah, those type of questions we will discuss.
Okay.
And on the spot भी बना सकते हैं क्वेश्चन अगर if needed, okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Ma'am, we will start from the first chapter or we will go backwards?
Yeah, you tell me.
Ma'am, we will go from the first chapter.
First chapter, okay?
Okay, ma'am. Third, fourth, fifth chapter, we can pay more emphasis because first 2 chapters were already 2 times revised.
Yeah, 2 times revised. So we can start from first one or third one. You all discuss with that your class and tell me. We still have time.
हम थर्ड वन से स्टार्ट कर लीजिए, लास्ट में.
24th third chapter.
Yes, ma'am. Third chapter.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, you can give questions on first 2 chapters at least. The
Yeah,
MCQ
so this is
questions
quite
only.
common.
Yes. As MCQ question पहले ही you already seen in your mid sem, I think up to chapter 3 or chapter 3.
Chapter
draft बनाया because it was anything. So we can start with chapter 3 only. Then for first and second in last, because we have 2 weeks. Means
Yes, ma'am.
how many hours? We have at least 10 hours.
तो मैं element कहाँ insert?
No, at most 10 hours, not at least. Right? And there is, I think, one holiday is there.
Vector quantity.
Yes, ma'am.
and
At least
sign
10 hours.
get now
10 to 11 hours.
अगर path exist करना है, so first third chapter, okay, we'll start with third chapter.
Ma'am.
Time तो visit करती, but यहाँ पे yes,
Okay, ma'am.
Hamiltonian.
Yes, ma'am.
And given condition is democratic. Clear? Anyways, yes. So which is all for today. If you have any other query, please tell me. Otherwise, I will leave now. Yeah.
Y plus
Ma'am, we will start from tomorrow or from Monday?
From Monday. Tomorrow we can discuss all the assignment parts.
Yes, ma'am.
लैब एग्जाम में वही थ्योरी पार्ट ही पढ़ा है, कोई लैब तो किया नहीं है, तो सेम थ्योरी पार्ट. Why are you asking that? क्योंकि उस पे ही होगा. नो. अगर ये सिचुएशन चलती रही तो क्यूज पे ही होगा.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Stop here. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. One thing. This was the last class for today.
No, ma'am. One more class.
No, ma'am.
Next class is which subject?
CTC.
CTC. Yeah, CTC. उसमें तो बड़ा डिस्कशन करते हो तुम लोग. Yes. अदर सब्जेक्ट इतने इंटरेस्टिंग क्यों नहीं है? ओके. एंड यहाँ पे चाह के भी सो जाते हो, है ना? I'm not talking about you only. There might be some students like that. Okay.
Good afternoon, all of you. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Deep, there were some groups left, no, with the audience analysis activity. Tomorrow, not today. Okay. So, what is it that we were doing in the last class? Okay. Okay. Now, the first thing is that, see, why it is important, to write or to draft an introduction well, and what is the function of an introduction. So there are four functions of an introduction. The first two are gaining the audience's attention and their goodwill, and the third one is to state the purpose of the speech, and fourth is to give them the preview of the main points. What is it that you're going to accomplish in the speech?
Ma'am, you are not sharing your screen.
I'm not able to share my screen. That is the issue. Not able to do it. Um, I'm trying, but I'm unable to. Wait. Yeah, it's raining. It's raining in your place also. I mean, also from Bhubaneswar. It's raining very badly. Uh, Let me see if I can. Wait. No, I'm not able to share my screen. Okay.
Okay, ma'am, no problem.
So we were talking about gaining the goodwill of the audience. I'm not able to do it now, but maybe I'm trying maybe sometimes later if I can. Um, so we were talking about gaining the goodwill of the audience, and we discussed about Aristotle, the Greek philosopher and teacher, who talked about rhetorics and speech making. So he's the first philosopher in the Western world to be talking about rhetorics and speech making, who theorized speech making. And he said that credibility is important. So if you want to gain the attention and interest of your audience, it is also important that your audience should like you. So you must have that the likability or the believability. That factor is called uh, ethos. So ethos is the credibility factor of your that you're qualified enough to make the speech. And credibility has two elements. He said that credibility two elements. One is the external credibility, and the second is the internal credibility. Now, external credibility is the kind of source that the speaker is using. What is the source that the speaker is using? We, when we were talking about the introductory speech, we discussed about uh, the, uh, the in-text citations. So I told that since it is an informative speech, you must have citations within the text. What are the sources that you have collected the information from? That has to be reflected. You have to acknowledge that in between in the speech, and that does two things. The first is it enhances your credibility, your your qualification as a speaker. So people think you are qualified enough to speak on the topic because you have researched the topic well. And second is it saves you from plagiarism. So when you're citing the sources, you are not getting into plagiarism. So these are the two things uh, when we have in-text citations. So it enhances our credibility. And external credibility is the kind of sources that you have used in your speech making. The sources must be credible enough. You have to see who is sponsoring the website. You have to find out whether there is any dubious agency that is sponsoring the website, or if the uh, if the sources that you quote are from credible websites and from indexed journals. If the journals are indexed, then it is credible source. So that is one way of developing your or boosting your external credibility. Now, the next step in writing the introduction is to clearly state the purpose. So, and you should not be missing out on this step. the the purpose statement, the specific purpose statement, and the central idea, which is also called the thesis statement, has to be clearly articulated to your audience, or else uh, your audience might seem lost. They might not be able to uh, know what is it that you are going to speak in the in your talk. So you must be able to tell your audience uh, your plans to as to what you're going to accomplish in the talk, for them to be able to uh, follow you through. If your audience is able to follow you through, then you have to give them a very clear-cut idea about what is it that you're going to accomplish. And I have asked you to uh, add uh, add a slide to your informative speech where you are going to give the general purpose, the specific purpose, and the central idea. So you need to add that slide. You need to let your audience know very clearly what your purpose is in the speech. So one of the functions of one of this purpose of introduction is to give the preview or give a brief overview of your entire speech. So your audience is able to navigate through. It helps them to navigate through the entire speech. It gives them a framework. Like every book has a content page. So when we flip through the book, we read through the content page. It gives us an idea about what the book is. Similarly, your introduction, where you are stating the purpose and the thesis statement or the central idea of your speech, um, gives an overview, gives your audience an idea as to what you're going to speak through. So it is important that you specify that in the introduction. That is one of the functions of the introduction. Now let us look at some of the attention getting strategies. Uh, can you name some? Can you tell me what are when we are introducing, we are also trying to get the attention of our audience. So, what are some of the attention getting strategies according to you? How have you planned to grasp your
Using
impact?
hand signs while the speech.
Yes, yes, Gurman, can you repeat it once again?
Using hand signs.
Okay.
Ma'am, using quotes that audience are familiar, using a common region language to means to
Okay,
get their attention.
okay. You can use a quotation because that's a very common strategy when we were kids. Even when we were going to school, our teachers used to tell us that you must start with a quotation. Your speech must start with a quotation. So we started with it. But are there any other techniques that we?
Modulating your voice according to the intensity or the uh, facts you are stating.
Okay. But what is the one thing that you do to grab the attention? Because uh, that's the first interaction that you are having with your audience. And how do you make an impression on them? How do you really get their attention? Okay, right.
Something that audience can easily relate to instead of like data and facts.
Hmm. Okay, yeah. Yes, so maybe we can we can start it with a quotation, like you said, starting it with a quotation. Okay, or maybe we can tell a story. Human beings love stories. We all love stories, isn't it? It's not only kids that love stories. Everyone, each one of us loves stories because stories reflect a lot of things. So we kind of enjoy listening to narratives and stories. Stories where we can share our values, our traditions, our culture, our knowledge, our personal experiences, personal stories. Storytellers has become a uh, very lucrative profession. Like you find many stand-up comedians these days, and that's become a very nice profession. People earn a lot of money by making comedy, by making humor. Similarly, you also find a lot of people who tell us stories, and that is become an occupation. They don't have to be story writers basically. They're not writing stories, but then they narrate stories. Okay, they narrate stories. So storytelling is also become uh, become a profession and a very lucrative profession. There's this Bakul Foundation in Bhubaneswar, and they do a lot of literary work, social work also. It's an NGO, and they have a library for everyone, like for kids, for all the age groups. And they have a storytelling session every Saturday evening, and that's screened live on YouTube and Facebook, I guess. So they also have international storytellers who uh, narrate stories from their own countries. With storytelling, and people really love stories, so that could be a good way to start your speech. Or you can also refer to the occasion that you are giving the speech for. What is the reason you are giving the speech? It could be a tribute to someone, or you're toasting someone for their success, or you're dedicating the speech. So, what is the occasion? You can refer to the occasion. And um, you can also talk about your personal interest as to why you chose this story. Sorry, this topic. What compelled you to choose this topic of speech? So why are you speaking about what you are speaking? So what is your personal interest? What compelled you to? So this can also you know indirectly insinuate at your credibility by showing your knowledge and experience on the topic. Maybe you can say, I've been working on this area for quite a long time, or what really made me to work on this area. So you are also indirectly offering them or telling them uh, that you are qualified enough to speak on this topic. So when you refer to your personal interest or what motivated you to speak on the topic, so you can also refer to that. What was your personal motivation behind picking up this topic? Or maybe you can use some startling statistics, unusual facts, and that's a sure to go attention grabber. It's tried and tested. Maybe I was telling your class how one of my students in this speech class, I asked them to deliver the speech, but then it was the offline mode. So we were all present, and this boy started off by telling us, by giving us some very unusual facts and startling statistics. And all of us were looking, oh, really, is it? And then he said, whatever I said is not true. And he came to his topic because my topic is on fake news. So that's that's a tested attention getter strategy. When you tell something very unusual which people do not know or people are not able to relate to, and then they are hooked to you saying, "Is it? I mean, really? I mean, whatever you're saying," and then you may you may go on to listen further to uh, uh, the presenter to find out what is the relationship between this surprising statistics and his speech. So that's also an attention grabber. Or maybe you can use an analogy, an example. You can talk about certain things that your audience know and they can relate to, and connect it to your speech, which could be something very, very different, something your audience doesn't know. So making a comparison like that, bringing in the analogy, could also be attention getting. And like all of you said, using a quotation. Yeah, we can use a quotation. Or we can ask a question. Asking a question also gets our audience involved. It could be a rhetorical question, doesn't matter. But then when you ask a question to you, when you throw a question at them, uh, they get involved, they are engaged. Because they start thinking, they are pondering, oh, what could be the answer? So this is also a very good technique to get your audience involved and engaged. So you just throw them a question, ask them questions. But the point is, you must write that one paragraph. When you are giving the speech, please prepare um, a text. If not for the entire speech, maybe the introductory and the conclusion part must be written word by word. Alright? And you have to focus on these four areas: how to get their attention, how to get their goodwill, boost my credibility as a speaker so that my audience trusts me, that I'm qualified enough to speak on the topic, and then some attention grabbing strategy. Uh, you also have to specify them what your purpose is and what is the you have to give them a brief outline that these are the things that I'll be covering in my speech. All right, so these are the four functions of an introduction, and it would really help you well if you write it. If you write that one paragraph of introductory note, you can also use humor, because what humor does is humor creates a connection between both of you, between the audience and the speaker, and their frame of mind is more relaxed and receptive after a good laugh, right? Uh, this is also quite tested. You make them laugh, and then their mind becomes much more relaxed, and they receive things quite well. So humor relaxes the audience's frame of mind, and they become much more receptive to what you say. And this can allow the audience to perceive the speaker well. So so whatever the audience says is perceived quite well. Now, how do you prepare the introduction? And probably, as I was telling you yesterday, you have to write the introduction at the end, towards the last. Because uh, when you are going to tell them what you are accomplishing in your speech, that has definitely to be uh, that has definitely to be done at the end. When you sit down to write the introduction first, you might be clueless as to what you're going to accomplish, what you plan to do in the speech. So it's a better idea that you write the speech and then go to drafting the introduction. So you get an idea what my speech is about and you can speak that. So prepare the introduction at the end because you can't introduce the ideas in your speech until you have determined them. What is it that I'm going to speak? You have to determine that first. You have to find out that. So it is the body of the speech which drives the introduction and not the other way around, not vice versa. Now, try to make it relevant. Try to make the introduction relevant. So, another reason why your introduction should be the last part of your speech is that the introduction can relate to the speech. So, if you want your introduction to be related to the body of your speech, draft it at the end. Because if you do not know what you're going to accomplish in the entire speech and draft the introduction first, it may be written in a very flawless and wonderful manner, but you may find it disconnected from the rest of the speech. So it could be completely disconnected. And that is the reason why you must write the introduction at the end when you have a complete grasp of the ideas that you plan to speak. So if you want to make it relevant, construct the introduction at the end, at the last. Okay, so now just like introductions, conclusions also have specific functions to fulfill. There are a number of types of conclusions, and we will look at these functions, discuss the relationship between the introduction and conclusion, and offer some strategies for preparing and delivering an effective conclusion. So, uh, first things first, you must prepare your audience for the conclusion. You simply cannot abruptly end the speech. You're saying the audience is completely engrossed in what you're saying, and suddenly you say, okay, that's the end. Thank you, goodbye. So you can't abruptly stop it. You should not just stop like that. You could not. You can't. That seems very uncanny. It's like freezing all of a sudden. No. So you need to effectively structure it. Structure a speech and deliver, and make a smooth transition from one idea to another. And then you also have to prepare the conclusion. How do you prepare your audience for the end? So, uh, as you move to the conclusion, you need to continue to provide them the cues, the hints that we are now moving towards the end, the conclusion. And this could be in your language structure, the linguistic, the syntactical cues. You can give them some syntactical cues. Like you can tell them, for example, now that we have seen that we can solve this problem effectively, we can review the entire situation. Now, the word review means I have nothing new to say and I'm going to conclude. I'm going to summarize. So the job of the conclusion is to summarize whatever you have said in the speech, not to bring in or not to insert any new idea. You have to simply summarize, review. So the very word review gives the audience a cue that we are moving towards the end of this speech. It could be language cues, it could be movement cues, uh, when you're physically moving back to the center of the room where you began the speech. If you're making too much of movement inside the room, when it is the conclusion, you may go back to the same position that you started off. Or it could be paralinguistic, non-vocal cues also, where you slow down the rate of the speech and use more pauses. So these are the three cues that you can add to prepare your audience for the conclusion. The language cues, give them hints that I'm going to end the speech now, it comes to the conclusion. So let us summarize now. Let us conclude from what we have learned. Now, these words, summary, summarize, review, conclude, gives them the hint that you're going to end the speech now. Movement cues may not be possible this time with you, but going back to where you started from. So that gives them the idea that now the speaker is going to end and take his place. Or paralinguistic or non-vocal cues, when you slow down your pace, your rate of speech, and you use more pauses. Okay, to give them the time for consolidation and reinforcing what you have said. And all these cues, the paralinguistic cues, the movement cues, the language cues, prepare your audience for the end of the speech, for the conclusion of the speech. Now, when you are concluding the speech, you can present any final appeals if you want to. All the more if it is a persuasive speech. Now, if you're persuading your audience to get into action, to do something, then then the conclusion is the best space that you get for making your final appeal. You may be asking them to simply you can simply uh, ask them whether they have understood what you have said in your presentation, or you can ask them to act in the way that you have told them to, or to change their attitude towards a uh, certain idea. So conclusion is the one chance that you get to make a final appeal. So conclusion is summarizing. You summarize whatever you have said to your audience. Do not insert any new idea. Summarize, and then that's your only chance to make an appeal. If it is an informative speech, if it is a persuasive speech, yes, your conclusion must do this, must end with a call for clincher or with a final appeal. But if it is not, if if it is not a persuasive speech, uh, you can simply ask your audience if they've understood what you said. Whatever it is, you must, or your conclusion must leave the audience motivated. They must think that well, this talk was worth it, because the audience who are gathered willingly might have reasons for attending the talk, and they might feel motivated. So uh, your conclusion might do that. Your conclusion might leave them motivated, or might motivate them to continue on a particular speech. subject or particular topic. Like when I heard about the Eastern and Western poetics, a talk on comparative poetics, I was motivated to PhD on the subject. So your speech, your conclusion must make a final appeal and must keep the audience motivated or inspired to uh, get in further with your topic. So it could be a final appeal. And uh, as I said, the conclusion has to summarize and close. So a conclusion is also like the introduction, where you have to uh, present it in a very structural format. So the conclusion, like the introduction, is structural. Like introduction, it must include a statement of the purpose of the speech, the preview of the main ideas, like the introduction. An introduction has all this, isn't it? The purpose, the preview, the thesis statement. So the conclusion should also include restating your thesis statement, and reviewing the main ideas. So what you will say, what you say, and what you have said. When you understand these three lines, you get the idea of how your speech should be structured. What you will say is the introduction. So you have to give them an idea about what your speech is about. Give them the plan of what you wish to accomplish. So what you will say, what you say that in the speech, the body. What you have said. Go back and review what you have already said. Summarize, recapitulate. Once again, restatement of the thesis and recapitulation, reviewing the main ideas. Introduction gives a preview of the main idea. Conclusion gives a review of the main idea. Introduction states the thesis statement. Uh, your conclusion restates the thesis statement. And you can always uh, end with a clincher or make a final appeal, but uh, final appeal for persuasive speeches are numerous. But if it is an introductory speech, just keep them refreshed and motivated. Right, like stories also make excellent conclusions and can be used as conclusions in at least two ways. First, you can complete the story that you've started in the introduction. So you tell them part of the story in the introduction and end it. Don't tell it in between, in the middle, and finish the story at the end. So you stopped right before the climax of the story, and you can now end the story. Or alternatively, you can retell the story, and this time the story will reflect what the audience has learned from your speech. Either you can start the story at the introduction, you can use this technique, and just stop well before the climax and complete it at the end, making audience connect and realize your theme to your theme. Or you can say the story and retell it again at the end with a more composite and coherent conclusion. You can make the story, or you can retell the story with the moral of the lesson, moral of the talk. You can add that, and humor. You can also end it with humor, whatever you wish to. But the point is, you have to uh, you have to review or summarize whatever you have said in the conclusion. Sorry, whatever you have said in the beginning. Now, there are two important points to remember: how to compose your conclusion. First, regardless of the form of conclusion, all summary remarks must meet certain required function. And second, most conclusions will be a combination of two or more forms. And the third point is conclusions need to provide a match to the introduction, so that there is a symmetry and completeness to the speech structure. So your introduction and conclusion should be a match to each other, should complement each other. So when you have completed writing the body of the speech, start writing the introduction and the conclusion. So you find a symmetrical structure and approach in both of them. And this gives, or this strives to the completeness in your speech structure. Doesn't feel haphazard, should not be haphazard. And you should not include any new information in your speech. No new idea or information should be there. Because the function of the conclusion is to prepare your audience for the end of the speech. And you can't go on to begin all over again. So that will confuse your audience. So do not present any new information in your conclusion, because the audience is now prepared for the end. And if you begin all over again with something new, they might be confused. If you want to follow a structure, a symmetrical structure with that of with your introduction, then you can do that. You can use the same quotation at the end as you did in the beginning, and or you can retell the same story that you did at the beginning, because what we have learnt in the speech, the quotation or the story has a new and more developed meaning. So when you're retelling, when you're restating the same quotation or the same story, this gives a completely new insight, because the audience might have gained a lot of knowledge and perception. So they might have gained some fresh and new insights. So these stories or these quotations that we started off with gives them a more complete meaning, or a more well-developed meaning. And you can also use a new quotation at the end that draws a comparison and contrast to the beginning quotation, or highlights what we have learned in the speech. The point is, you have to draft the introduction and the conclusion at the end of your speech text, the body of your speech, so that you kind of maintain a symmetry in the introduction and the conclusion. The structure has to be symmetrical and should give the feel of the completedness of the speech. Okay. There's a quotation from William Jennings Bryan who says, eloquent speech is not from lip to ear, but rather from heart to heart. So, any questions? Anything that you'd like to ask? No?
No, ma'am.
Yeah, Gurman? Yes.
No, ma'am, nothing.
Something? Yes. Any questions on this? No questions? Okay. So since you have not started, I think so, have you started preparing your slides for the informative speech?
Ma'am, those who have completed the audience analysis, then they will start with the informative speech right now.
Yeah. Those who have completed the audience analysis will start with informative speech. Yes. Because your exam dates are out, I guess. Your schedules are out.
Yes, ma'am.
When are your exams?
From 26th to 30th.
Yeah. So you have to
That
do.
informative speech one is an individual assignment.
Yes, it is individual. You have to
Okay.
individually deliver the speech,
Okay, ma'am.
and you don't have to take in partners. Mm. Mm. Yes, the same. You have to probably yeah, attempt MCQs. Yes. Had it been like the previous years, you'd have done some speech making and all, but you have to probably go in for MCQs. Yeah. Okay, so any other questions that you have to ask? No?
No, ma'am.
All right. Uh, so, should we stop here? We still have 5 minutes to go. So, any last minute queries?
Ma'am, any idea about the college reopening?
Sorry?
Any idea when will our college reopen?
College will reopen. Oh God,
I mean,
that's a
open
much.
only. When we will see our college.
That's a $1 million question. I think I'm not the right person to answer this. It's the administration which will tell you when they are going to. I don't know, but some say. I mean, there's a division of opinion. Some say that we are not going to be hit by the third wave. But it seems the third wave is catching up with lot many countries globally, and there's been global uh, shutdown again. So I'm really clueless.
Ma'am, but
I just
US
that
has announced that they can live their post-pandemic life because everyone is fully vaccinated over there.
yeah, that's true for many other developed countries, but Britain is again gone for the third stage of lockdown. So probably this Delta variant is a more dangerous variant.
Like this, and so after beta, then there will be gamma, and then X, Y, Z.
Don't know what's China doing with the entire world. Who could even think of a pandemic in the 21st century? That was a long lost history.
They basically
We
wanted
never
a
thought
long
we,
vacation.
we, uh, we have read about pandemics, but then we never thought we were going to relive this pandemic, live this pandemic. When the developed countries were planning to go to Mars, make habitation possible in Mars, we are somewhere stuck now.
I think because of this pandemic, only Elon Musk is trying to make habitation in Mars so that they can live peacefully over there.
Out of our homes and you see where we are now. We are unable to get out of the house. Hopefully, at least hope that you are able to see your college in your lifetime.
Yeah, I was thinking
Maybe
that of
next year.
yesterday that hopefully we will take our degree directly from the college, not a virtual one.
Yes, you should be able to at least see your college once in a lifetime. I mean, this is really pathetic. Nothing much can be done. So let's hope things get a little better. I don't know whether we are we will be stricken in a very uh, bad way with the third wave, or the third wave is just a hoax. I don't know. People are divided. Okay, okay, folks, all of you, please take care of yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
Have
Thank you.
a good. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.